On this episode of the Sacred Playgrounds podcast, we are going to talk summer staff. We're getting close. We're not too far now from staff arrival. And we're going to remind you what these staff need to thrive and give you 10 really practical ideas for how to set up a culture and a system of really vibrant staff support this summer. Welcome to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast. We're behind the mic and behind the research, turning insights into impact and numbers into North Stars for camping ministries and the intrepid leaders that serve them. Each episode blends thoughtful theology, compelling data, and actionable wisdom, all to help camps thrive today, tomorrow, and for years to come. I'm your host and producer, Jared Rendell, Director of Innovation and Communication for Sacred Playgrounds. Joining me is Director and Lead Researcher, Jake Sorensen, a PhD-level scholar, experienced ministry practitioner, and the founder of Sacred Playground. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode, the support button to help make these episodes happen, and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Sacred Playgrounds, and always at sacredplaygrounds.com. Explore with us what God might have in store at your Sacred Playground. Welcome to the playground, Jake and everybody else who's listening. Hey, buddy.
Hello. It is so good to be here and to be at this time of year. You know, when I turned the calendar to April, I just, I had to like breathe into a paper bag for a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's what? It's what month? Because the snow has been falling still, so you can't tell if it's January or if it's April up here in western Wisconsin. But April is here, and summer is
right next month
around the
for
corner.
A lot of them.
Exactly.
Like, you get to say that when
Ooh,
here we go.
They're coming. It's imminent. This is so exciting. I know it's such an exciting time of year. I've talked to a lot of you who are either on track with you're hiring and you're just like, I got a couple more contracts to sign and then we're ready to go. And some of you are in getting into panic mode with staff hiring. So we know that a lot of you are in different places, but the excitement is building as you start to finalize staff training schedules and contracts, and those last camper registrations roll in as well.
Right? Okay. Jake, you have made you've minced words zero on how you feel about like pranks and, and things like that at camp in particular. We've talked about this.
I hope I've been clear.
Is April Fool's Day your least favorite holiday on the calendar?
No, I don't mind japes. That's the thing. Like, I don't mind goofy things, and I don't mind japes in that sense. What I don't like is when some people are in on the joke and the joke is that other people aren't in on it. That's what a prank is. I'm in on the joke, we're in the in crowd, and those people are not in on the joke. And we think it's funny, and we expect them to laugh, because if they don't laugh, then something's wrong with them. And so that's what I don't like about that. But, like lightheartedness and being goofy and being a jokester and having some fun japes, those I think are...
There's space for that.
There's definitely space for that. And so we can be silly and lighthearted, and April Fool's is not my least favorite holiday. I would have to think hard to think about what my least favorite holiday is.
What your least favorite holiday was?
I'm not prepared with that.
You don't need to be prepared for that. That is not our quick camp question today.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear.
Here's what we are talking about today. Like we said, staff come for lots of folks. Staff come next month. It's depending on the area and things. Sometimes it's into June or some even later. But the staff are arriving. But a lot, training things and or at least sort of leadership staff are arriving next month.
Mm-hmm.
So staff training binders and schedules, spreadsheets of what modules going where are just flying right now for lots of you. So hopefully it's going really well. If you need to just bounce something off someone, just shoot us a message. What do you think about this? Shoot us a message. You can always do that. We know for lots of you, this is one of your favorite times. getting into when staff start to arrive and starting to think about that. But this run up to that is often really exhausting. So mostly we say that to say that we are with you, praying for you, and hope these preparations are going really well. And maybe equip you a little with some things that will help your staff thrive. That's the point, right? You want these summer staff to thrive. We know they are the heart of your summer ministry, and both all the stories that you have and the numbers that back it up say that these summer staff are the ones that make it happen, and they really matter. And so helping them thrive is worth your intention and your time and your energy. So, Jake, will you just give us some reminders? Like part of I think some of the most compelling things that we've learned are the things that our summer staff need to thrive. And we've talked about these before. We'll probably link an episode or two in the show notes just about how we've laid these out, and we keep bringing it up. But just in case we've got new listeners, and or it's just a good reminder here. Tell us about these kind of three main things, these three things that staff need to thrive.
Yep, the three main things, and these come from all of our staff surveys that we've done, but also focus groups, interviews, and site visits. The three major things that staff need to thrive at your camp this summer are support, agency, and a strong community of faith, or a community of common purpose, we often say. And so making sure that we have these support structures in place, we're going to give you some ideas sourced from many of you and from other camps that we've come in contact with about how you can support them this summer. And then also giving them that agency, making sure that they have a chance to shine and that their individual talents and roles fit in with the larger mission and vision of the camp becomes really, really important. That they can recognize that their input matters, that they're not just a cog in the machine, that if they weren't there, the staff community would be different and poorer in some way, that they are necessary for your staff to function. And that's where agency can really come in and importance can come in. But also that they have some decision making and they feel like they're being heard and listened to, and it matters that they're there. And then that community of faith. So a strong community gathered around this understanding of this amazing God of the universe who created us, who loved us, who called us to this place for a purpose this summer. What is that purpose? And so gathering around that common purpose becomes something that can really unite your staff, even staff members who might not always get along. We don't have to always get along with everybody. We don't always have to be best friends with everybody. But being united for that common purpose can help us move forward together. We can say, what can we do together? You know, it's too often where we've got in our society, the things that are amplified are the things that divide us. And we're constantly reminded of what divides us. And so many of our political leaders right now are trying to divide us along ideological lines. And we can say, hey, what brings us together? You know, rather than what separates us. There's all this focus on, especially among the different sectarian movements of Christianity and denominations, like what divides us? You know, what don't we get along on? Rather than, hey, can we feed the hungry? Can we house the unsheltered? You know, these are things that we get along on, you know, that are clear commandments of Jesus. And so we can still work side by side in some of these really important tasks, these ministry tasks that Jesus has given us, even when we disagree on some other things.
So that common purpose that we get to gather around is made up of a couple things, and you mentioned this, right? One is the fact that we want people to encounter the living God, right? We want to like this underneath all of our there's this one thing that unites all of our different ways of being, and that's underneath it. Then we get to contextualize that to your camp. You get to contextualize that to your unique space and time and people and place, and that comes out as your camp's mission statement. So for your camp, this is what you get to gather around. And what matters, what gives foundation to this whole thing, all of these support ideas that we're going to share, the thread that keeps this all through is that they feel like what they're doing is connected to and contributes to the unique mission of your camp. Right? And that really matters. And we know some things about how they feel about that. And we're going to share that actually as our stat of the week.
Stat of the week. Stat of the week. Stat of the week.
All right, the stat of the week this week is 87%. 87% of staff members from last summer 2025 said that they were confident that their specific tasks fit in with the mission of the camp, either often or almost always. So they're often or almost always feeling like this task that I have been given fits in with the mission and the vision of the camp. 87%. That's a really high number, and we should feel really good about that. I mean, this comes from our United Methodist staff study from last summer, from 2025, and we can really see the difference in those that said only sometimes or infrequently or not at all to that statement. Because something like, we ask them things like, did the camp experience have a significant positive impact on your life? And if they said often or always to that mission statement, being that their tasks were part of that mission statement, 91% agreed or strongly agreed that the experience had a significant positive impact on their life. And if they said either sometimes or not very often, only 61% said it had a significant positive impact. So we can see a big difference between did the camp experience impact you, and also do you plan to return, and also did you grow in your faith? So it's correlated with all of these other pieces. So it's really important to help them understand what they do, their role this summer, and their role right now, today, that you've assigned to them, how this fits in with the larger mission of the camp becomes incredibly important.
That's just to kind of clarify for people, like, so right, you're talking about these correlations, and that's something that we can see. That's part of where being able to do some of these numbers, some of these statistical analyses at another level than a regular survey or a few questions we might ask. We get to figure out things like, hey, when this happens, how does that affect this? And that's really interesting, that the difference that makes, because that's a big jump, right?
It's a big jump.
That 30-point jump is a big jump. So what that tells us then, like, again, never stats for sake of stats, never stat of the week just because it's fun. What that tells us then is that the emphasis that we place on connecting their tasks to the mission will make a big difference for their impact and outcomes.
Correct.
Clearly.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake. Okay, so if you forget the next 10 things, make sure that you are speaking your mission to them and connecting your mission to them in the context that you're talking about their tasks, what they're doing. Both the big picture of, hey, your role really matters, and here's why it's connected. And this week, your role is this. And as you're doing this thing, this is how this fits into the mission. Making those connections is critical.
And doing it early in staff training, and then
Early
repeatedly. Early and often. That's exactly right. What is our mission? What are we here for? What are you doing here this summer? And really coming around that together and coming to a common understanding of that common purpose, that community of common purpose. What is it that we're gathered around this summer? What's the primary thing? And then keeping the primary thing throughout the summer, and reminding them of that, and getting it to the point where they're reminding each other of that. Because we're going to get into these challenging situations throughout the summer where we're having relational challenges, where we're frustrated with a specific task or the role and how it's turned out, or how tired I am, how burnt out I am. Being able to be reminded, either I'm reminding myself of this, or a fellow staff member is reminding me of this, of why I'm here in the first place. That I'm not here for myself, right? I'm not here, to just have a great summer. There's something deeper to the purpose that I am here. And I'm having this impact on other people. I'm impacting the mission of this camp, that my role fits in with this. And that if I keep going and doing this, then I will help the camp fulfill the mission. And I will help my fellow staff members fulfill their purpose this summer too. And that will be personally fulfilling for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. So the idea, now we're going to get into it here. The idea is that we're going to talk about, in total, it will be 10 things. 10 things that will help you set up a culture and systems of supporting your staff. We know what they need to thrive. These things contribute then to this community of common purpose. They offer them agency, and they build this culture of support. And I say culture and systems on purpose because, of course, you're going to do your best to say the things that you need to say, to have the language that you need to say. And sometimes we stop at culture and we don't set systems in place. And so that's really the goal for today, is to get tactical and tangible enough in some of these support systems that then just run themselves. and you get back to the end of the summer and you go, our staff are thriving, right? So they clearly feel supported. Putting these things in place and thinking about them now, putting them in place now, rather than, it's proactive versus reactive. Then going, oh, we're having a really hard time. It's been a rough few weeks. They feel, really siloed. They're spending a lot of time alone. All of these other things that would go, oh, wait a sec, they're not really connected and supported, right? We'd rather do this up here. We'd rather do this on the front end and be proactive about these systems. So
Absolutely.
Here's how we're going to do this. The definition of a noun, according to what I just Googled, says a part of speech that names a person, place, thing, idea, or action. It's not just from Google, but like I've got kids and, I've got elementary age kids and one about to start kindergarten, and we're learning these foundational things about reading and words and things. So we're going to borrow this definition of a noun to give us some frame for these ideas. So
all right.
Jake and I each have your game. Jake and I each have 5 things apiece, 5 items that fit into these. So we're gonna share. Each of us are gonna share a person that helps build a culture and system of staff support. We're gonna share a place, a thing, an idea, and an action. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 2. That's gonna get you 10. So, so you're gonna. We got this.
Get your pens ready.
Get your pens out. You can take
ideas coming at you. I love it.
They're flying. Yeah. So we'll each share a person, place, thing, idea, and action. You will likely have some of these things that like, oh yeah, we do that, but we'll talk a little bit about them and say, oh, maybe there's an adjustment we can make to this, a step up we can make to this, something that we can do to make sure that this actually connects with a supportive thing. Because that's actually the point there. Person, place, thing, idea, action. We'll share each of those. All right? That's the plan. Are you ready?
I am ready.
You're so ready. All right. Here we go. So, culture and systems of SaaS support. One of the most powerful things that you can do is set people in their path, set relationships and connections in their path this summer that will provide support for them. Of course, as a leader, you're going to do that, but we want to set people in place to support them. So, Jake, what's our first thing?
All right. My person that you're going to put in place for your staff members is a prayer partner. A prayer partner is going to be a peer-to-peer relationship within the staff. And so there are multiple ways that you can do this. And I know I've talked with many of you, and you do this in different ways of how you structure prayer partners. I encourage you to do this formally so that every single person on your staff has a prayer partner who is also a person on staff. Okay. So what we're looking at is peer-to-peer support here. And it's somebody that is there for a very specific purpose. And then you program time for them to get together. And this would ideally be during staff training. They get to know each other in certain ways, and that they take time to pray for one another and with one another, and are encouraged to share some things maybe that they might not share with everybody on staff, right? It's a special relationship that they're establishing with this prayer partner. And then you give them time at least once a week, probably at the end of the week, possibly at the beginning of the week, depending on how your week is structured, to have time specifically with that prayer partner and set it aside as a programmed time. Maybe it's at the end of the week before the staff meeting. Maybe it's right after campers leave. Wherever it fits in with your schedule, program some time and say, we're going to get together with our prayer partners, so that they actually have that time, because otherwise people will skip it. Okay. So making sure you program it and you make sure that everybody has a prayer partner. You could do this in multiple ways. They could choose their own. And then whoever doesn't have one, you could pair them up, or you could sign them up on a list and just pair them. There are different ways of doing this, and do it the way that's going to work best for your community. But this is a really amazing system that you can have in place. And I've heard testimonies from staff members who tell me that this really made a big difference for them in their prayer life, but also in their personal well-being while they were at camp, because it gave them somebody with a specific role who was looking out for them in a different way, but it also gave them somebody they were looking out for in this way, and that they were praying for on an individual level. And sometimes we need that little push and a programmatic push to do that. So prayer partner is my person to put in place for these staff members.
So here's what I'd like to lead into mind, Jake, that you like how you described this, because part of what's, again, to give us some like specificity and some frame, part of what I think matters here is that we set up intentionally, formally, these layers of relationship for them.
Yes.
right? Like that's the bigger idea here. So you just talked about a peer-to-peer relationship.
Yes.
We want that. We know that we want a really valuable, in our action later, we're going to talk about an example of one of these, a peer to leader, like a person to leader relationship, right? We
Yep.
want that to be healthy, dynamic, active. And so that one's going to come back up. Our person, because we both, had this idea, is kind of another layer of that. And that is a chaplain. That's a camp chaplain. We didn't always have, like in my summers on staff, we didn't always have a specific chaplain. And our staff, kind of thankfully, like had enough space to sort of come around, and we ended up serving like that for each other. And again, thankfully, really good leaders meant that sometimes they provided that for us, right? One of my former executive directors is godparent to one of my kids right now.
Mhm.
And then during my time when I was an interim exec, and I wasn't actually able to be there quite as often, I really relied on this voice on camp, and it was so helpful. Maybe the only reason that those couple of summers went okay. So a camp chaplain, in case you haven't had one, is someone who is intentional about the spiritual, faithful connectivity of your staff, right? And there's some different models. We'll talk about those in a second of how that might work. But the point is that there is someone who is intentionally spiritually caring for your staff. That's the point. Different ways to do it, different ways to model it. We'll share some ideas, but that's really the point. They are at a faith-based Christian camp on purpose. Like we've talked about that with campers. Like they signed up for this, right? And they are hoping to get some spiritual growth out of this experience. And this person helps care for them in their spirit. Yes, their mental. This ends up having positive impacts on mental health and their physical health and all of that. And they are there to help care for their souls during the summer. So a camp chaplain it is part of a person or a few people, but at least a person whose intentional role is to spiritually care for your staff.
You were clear that it's not a peer, so it's not peer to peer, and it's not a supervisor, and that's important.
Correct.
It
Good
can't be the
clarification.
person's supervisor. It's a safe person to go to with challenges, questions, doubts that maybe I'm not comfortable talking with my supervisor about. It's a different role, and so having that is really important. Awesome one.
So there's some different ways to model this, just to quickly share. Sometimes, like we've seen this either as a full role or added on to the role. Sometimes there are pastors or deacons or other folks who they've either got some sabbatical time, or they've got some some other time off, or maybe they do some teaching and they do some spiritual care, whatever it might be. Sometimes they've got this summer space, and so they come on, and their role during the summer is this: they act as a chaplain for the camp as a whole, and a lot of that is dedicated to their staff. So we've seen that as one model. So like an actual staff role is one potential way to do that. Another way, this is how we did this. Another way is that this is a way to engage at least one, potentially more, but at least one local pastor who you want. There's multiple. There's lots of value here in both, but you want them to be a connected owner to your camp. These local pastors, hopefully, they're sending kids, etc. This is a really a deep way of engaging them. Often, maybe the most common model I've seen is like week by week chaplain. So maybe this is a church staff person who's coming on site with campers or something like that, and it's a way to engage those pastors or youth workers or whoever it might be, and they come act as a chaplain, and they get to be on the outskirts. They get to engage some, but then ideally you're really building some intentional time for them to serve as a chaplain for your staff. We combined that model. It was really powerful. We had a local pastor be like a lead chaplain, and they actually helped me recruit. And
that's nice.
So week by week, and then so that worked out really well. That there was actually a couple layers, and that pastor equipped those other chaplains with a copy of Holy Ground and some of what the staff were going through. And that way, I didn't even actually have to deal with that. They actually served as that connector and liaison. So
nice.
Those are a few examples. Having this person intentionally really matters. That's my person.
That's your person. Awesome.
All right, cover person, check. You likely have some. You can drop those in a comment wherever you want. If you've got hey, we've also got this this person who really helps with this. Let's move on to place.
All right.
Camp is this intentional place, this set apart place. Camp has time and has space to it. So let's talk about place for a second. I'm gonna start, Jake, and I'm gonna use the I'm going to use the softball here, and that is staff only space. Right? We call these things different, but staff only space, set apart space for your staff. Often they call it a staff lounge. But there are a couple things here that matter to quickly say. So one, here's the crux. Your staff lounge can't be an afterthought. It can't be the one building or extra room, the smallest one in the corner, just so you're checking the box of having that space. Right? We've seen that. We've done that.
The old basement of the barn over there.
Right.
Staff
You've
can
got
hang out
space.
there.
You're fine. You're fine. Just
condemned.
go over there somewhere.
We can't put campers there, so it'll be the staff lounge.
Oh my gosh, that actually full on.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen that.
Absolutely happened.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
that happened at the camp that I worked at. They were, and like the summer after, it was our staff lounge. It got torn down because the county said that building isn't safe. That happened. So your staff lounge needs to be on purpose, intentional. They need to co-create what's in there. It needs to be a forefront, not an afterthought. It needs to be, ideally, it's well stocked with both things that speak to the support, right? It's comfortable, it's warm, or it's cool, or both at the right times. It is potentially stocked
snacks,
with refreshment things and things like that. And whether it's in there or another space, I mean, different camps have different models of this, but just the idea to take it a step further, that like make sure your staff have some personal space to put their things. It might be there, it might be somewhere else. If you work on kind of a nomad model, like, hey, you're in this cabin this week, you're in this cabin that week, so that they aren't fully, living in this, this nomad life. They get it. They signed up for it. They know that they're, they're moving around. But for them to have some dedicated space, and maybe it's in that, or maybe it's something separate, but to have some dedicated personal space where they can say, this is my stuff, this is my thing, this is my area.
That's so important.
So a well-stocked, intentional, staff-only lounge space is my place.
I love it. My place is actually off camp. It's a local church. Remember that these other spaces are incredibly important, and we have this natural connection and intentional connection to the local church. And we want to keep that connection and deepen that connection. A lot of these staff members as emerging adults are in an in-between space where they're not probably attending a local church frequently. And so they have some distance and some space for that. And so they can oftentimes say, oh, how important is it really to have a local church? Well, they've got community in their campus ministry or in their dormitory, in their chapel at college, whatever it is. They might not have a local church that they're going to, but that's still really important. And we want to connect them with the local church. And so there's multiple ways to do this. And what I really encourage you to do is those camp enthusiasts that are in your area, that are within, a certain radius of your camp that you can get to, really engage with those churches as spaces. Go to those spaces. Encourage your staff to go to those spaces, and don't just encourage them, but program time for them to be there. And so this might look like during staff training that your staff are deployed to local churches, probably in teams, to help lead or to do a children's sermon or to introduce themselves so that they become part of that community. And it gives the chance for the community to shower some love on them as well, so that they're able to see that they are part of this larger church structure of people that are supporting them and praying for them. There's all sorts of different ways that we can enhance these connections, but at the very least, deploying your staff during staff training to a specific location. That might be for a commissioning. It might just be to, in teams to 4 or 5 different local churches. It shows your support of the church, but it also shows your staff that they're part of this larger church, and that these people are there to support them. The other thing that I've seen done is sometimes these local churches will adopt a staff, and they'll send care packages to staff members. That can be a powerful thing as well.
Totally.
And so when that happens and when that relationship exists, making sure that you're programming time for staff to go to that specific church as well can be really important. So it's a two-way street, right? It's not just them sending stuff and it's some faceless people sending things, but the staff actually go there, they meet the people, they have fellowship time with them, and there's a chance for this community to love on these summer staff, and so that they can see it in front of them. Also encouraging that on the weekends, and potentially, depending on when you start on your week, having a programmed time for the staff to go out and lead these services or to be part of a congregation on the weekends as well. And so programming these things can be really, really important.
I love the idea of really leaning near camp enthusiasts there. Some of our favorite, I remember, because we did all these church visits, during the summer, and some of them felt really transactional. All right, we go do this thing, we do this service, and there were a couple who, by themselves, they happen to have these people who just loved camp, right, or board members who go to a certain church or things like that, and they went to another level, right? So they really felt like they were hosting, right? So they welcomed them, they let them know how glad they were there. They set space and time for dessert afterwards, and with a few other people, and campers that were there got to come say hi and all of that, versus this just like, oh, go lead this service, turn around and go. This transactional way of doing that. Love that, leaning into those folks.
Don't underestimate how powerful this can be for your staff to see other people from outside the community, to see outside this bubble. There's this larger church, and these people of all different generations, they're not dismissing me. They're loving me. They're caring for me, and they want me to succeed. That can be powerful and give them that agency and give them that support and that knowledge to keep them going. So that's my place.
That's your place. Let's go to thing.
Thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Put something in their hands, you guys. Put something in their hands. Something that's supportive, something that's for them, and something that helps them in their role this summer and gives them that additional support. This is the reason that we created Holy Ground 5 years ago. It's the reason, right? We did this staff survey, and we found that people, the staff wanted a resource. They wanted something in their hand. They said, I would do this. I would read scripture more, but I just don't know how. It doesn't feel like it's for me. I'm having trouble finding something that's for me. And so this was the reason that we created Holy Ground. And this was an idea that came from our dear friend Gretchen Bachman, who helped us design this thing and help get this off the ground. And so put this devotional resource in their hands. Does it have to be Holy Ground? Of course not. It can be a different sort of resource that you're putting in their hands that's for them. It's for their personal renewal, and it's to show them that they have support from other people. So what Holy Ground does is it's other camp people. It's designed especially for camp staff. It's other camp people writing to them and encouraging them. And it reminds them again of that support from outside of their community. So see what we're doing here is we're putting layers of support in place. When you give them a prayer partner, it's peer-to-peer. When you give them a camp chaplain, that's a peer to a non-supervisory adult and mentor. When you give them this church connection, that's a support outside of their normal system. When you put something in their hands like Holy Ground, the larger church, these other people from camp that are writing support to them as well. And so they have this web, this system of support that's not just localized, but it's got layers that go out into the church and the world. So that's my thing. Give them Holy Ground.
If you're curious about Holy Ground, right at the end, we're going to tell you exactly where to get it, a little more about what it is, the place that you can go. Link to sacredplaygrounds.com/holyground if you want to just hit pause and go there right now. You can see what that is and order copies. We'll tell you more quick at the end.
And a shout out to all of the writers who are listening, because there's 60 of you that submitted devotions. 60 different camp staff people, and many of you are listeners. So thank you for those who submitted devotions for this year's Holy Ground.
My thing to give them is some swag. Give them some swag.
Yeah, man.
Everybody loves swag, right? We've gone to camp conferences. People love swag.
They do.
Yeah, they need camp swag, right? Of course, when you're going to do this, you're going to give them a staff T-shirt, right? And that is both fun and serves a function, serves a purpose. Give them some stuff beyond. Give them some camp swag. This is worth your investment. Of course, they can buy, all the extra stuff they want at the camp store, but they should have at least a small kit of camp swag that you give them. This does some things, right? One, it creates from the very beginning, right? When they get there and they've got a kit. Maybe it's a bag, right? Yeah, they've got their binder, but here's all the other stuff as well. They're slapping a sticker on a water bottle right now. When you give them that swag, you are immediately creating this is my place and I am a part owner in this connection. And that really matters, and it will matter all throughout the summer, right? We talked about how these physical, tangible things, that there's a tangible way to connect to mission. creates ownership and connection with your camp. 2, they become little marketers for you, right? So they, if they're going out on a weekend and when they leave camp and whenever it is, they're wearing the things, or they're putting the sticker on the laptop, or they're whatever it is, they become little marketers for you, right? And people ask. So when you give them something interesting and they put that somewhere, they're using that somewhere, they get to have a conversation about their experience. And that's a really good thing. Using our, especially summer staff as marketers and recruiters throughout the whole year is a deeply under-tapped resource at camp. And the last thing that it can do, the bonus maybe, is that it also reminds them that they're representing you. They're representing you all the time. Right? When they are gone for a weekend, when they are whatever it is, they're representing your camp, and having that underneath is can help with a lot of things, right? And so they're a representative of you wherever they go.
It's an identity
piece. That's my
piece.
thing. Give them some swag. Yep. It's an identity piece.
Swag.
Yep.
I love specifics. So a specific from a camp partner is that they would do staff jackets, and they were different each year. So this summer, 2026, staff at Park River Bible Camp, they get a specific jacket, and only they have this one. And that's a piece of an identity thing as well, that the campers can see them wearing this. They can see each other wearing this. And so something like that, something that's unique and just for them, can be a little extra special as well. So there's different ways that you can tweak this. But what you don't want to do is nickel and dime them and say, oh, yeah, you can get camp stuff. Buy it in the store. You get 10% off. I mean, come on. That is really nickel and diming them. Trying to say, actually handing them the kit. I think you're right on there, Jared.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's the
thing. There's my thing.
There's your thing.
We did person, place, thing. We're on idea. So it's an idea. It's an idea for you to take, for them to take. Here's my idea. I loved it. So like my summers counseling, loved these summers counseling, loved that role. I was incredibly formative for me. And when I look back, one of the weeks that I remember is the week that we got to put a roof on the high ropes course equipment building. So they intentionally changed my role. They changed my contribution for a week, right? And that was one where I just got to full on serve as a maintenance person, got to be in their shoes. And that doesn't just have to come out of, I got to find something for this person to do because we got a, week with a few less campers, and what are all my counselors going to do? Well, there's value in that when you do it intentionally. So the idea is to change their role for a week at some point during the summer. Give everyone a taste of other things. This does a ton of things, right? One, it creates some empathy for some of these other roles to say, hey, if there's somebody who's really doing dishes all the time, all week, a support staff person, a kitchen staff person who just gets to do things like that, and you take that on for the week, and you can gain some empathy and understanding of those roles, and that actually contributes to mission too. That's really helpful, right? Changes the perspective for them. Often reinvigorates, energy. Just changing their scenery, their point of view can make a big difference. So that's my idea. Change their role at some point during the summer for a week. Give them another fresh experience of something that still matters at your camp.
I love it. And it might be something as simple as changing the program. So they're doing the same program every week with high schoolers, and then they get a chance to be with elementary school kids for a week.
Sure.
Or they get a chance to be in the kitchen or with maintenance or something like that. And it gives them a little extra boost of energy. And so it's not a break, right? It's a change of pace. And it's a way to use their talents a little differently and to be creative and fun with something. I always loved those creative weeks as well.
Yeah.
And I would always try to rotate my staff. So definitely do that.
Yep. Do that on
purpose. I love
purpose.
that idea. Yep. Do it on purpose. Plan it ahead of time so that you're not changing everybody in the same week, because that's a recipe for a little craziness.
Yeah.
So my
what do you got, Jake?
What's your idea? My idea is programming weekend engagement. Programming weekend engagement opportunities. And so this is such an important thing to do in today's day and age, because the staff aren't doing it themselves as much as they used to.
Yeah, not in the same way.
They're more likely to go off into
different.
little pods or little groups, or off by themselves, or just to go home because there's nothing else happening. And so this is something that we can give a little boost to and actually program some of these things. And this might making a list of things, and on this weekend this is what's going to happen. And maybe it's something as simple as a sign up sheet to go to the local amusement park, to go to the local summer baseball game that you've got, a minor league game or something like that, or a college league game. It could be things like that, but it could also be things on camp. And so I remember one year that I was on staff, we actually had a weekend coordinator. Because this was the weekend, this was the summer that I was up at Sky Ranch in Colorado, where, it's an hour and a half from the nearest town, way up in the mountains. And so to encourage people to stay around and to have some of that engagement, there was actually a weekend coordinator who planned activities on the weekend. And one weekend we did Olympics, and it was staff Olympics, and people hung around, and we did that on the day off. And those sorts of things really help build staff community. And again, these are things that you have to do intentionally, because if you just let the staff do it, there will be some people left out.
Yeah. The inclusivity and connection, that's the role where you as a leader can come to and make sure that's happening. This idea was one of the ones that came in, like, because we asked folks for some of these ideas, and like you said, a handful of these either came from ideas they shared or things that we've seen. So let me tell you about the one that Steph wrote. So Steph told us this. And it's along these lines of this weekend activity. So they had, here's the idea, especially with driver's license or people having their own cars that are just hanging out at camp. That's overall been less and less common. And also in terms of like international staff that, more and more camps are using, they had a role. They had a designated driver.
Designated driver.
To sort of hijack the term is kind of funny. All right. It's a designated driver each weekend. And this person was approved and trained to use the camp vehicles to, hey, we're going to go run errands at, wherever it is from this time to this time. We're going to go out for lunch, right? We're going to go to this activity. We're going to go to that baseball game you mentioned, whatever it might be. So, and it was a job, right? So it was kind of this coordinator, but it was part of this job. It was a formal work weekend job, but also what actually mattered there was, it helped us culture. It made sure there was someone there to both invite and enable people to join and to be together and to do things, right? Staff culture gets built when you share these work experiences together, and it gets built in these less structured but space created times where they get to do that.
And that's when you think through the staff experience and where could a person, fall off and be into the space of like, maybe I don't really matter. It's if they're left behind on the weekend. When they're not required to hang out with me, what happens? And here I am all by myself. I'm just going to go home, or I'm just going to hang out at camp by myself. So making sure that people aren't left behind is something that you have to program. Otherwise, somebody will get missed. So and this program weekend activities.
Here's a quick reminder that sometimes we think of introverts and extroverts in the wrong way, right? This idea, like, introverts don't just want to be alone all the time. They don't want to be left alone. Right? They might not, if they get a big week of crazy camp, it doesn't mean that on the weekend they just want to be by themselves all the time. No,
that's right.
They want smaller groups, smaller conversations, some more quiet, things like that. Sometimes I hear that in response to, well, they're an introvert and they want to go be by themselves all week. No, they don't. But they want that kind of more intimate connectivity and some quiet. And so
just one other one that, so this is from Rainbow Trail Lutheran Camp out in Colorado. They're a camp that goes from Sunday to Saturday. And so there's not a full day off.
Mm-hmm.
And yet what they do on the weekend, one weekend in the middle of the summer, the director called in some volunteers and some people that were formerly on staff, and they had this big barbecue, and they did like a brisket and ribs. Like, it was a full on barbecue, and there was a volleyball event and things. Staff were tired. They got together. They did this together. It was a good fellowship opportunity where it was informal. They're able to hang out, and they're able to just get loved on by these former staff members. And even though they only had this really short break, they were all invited to this special event. And the director was there helping them with this. And he made this comment to me. He said, they'll be good for the rest of the summer after this. They were tired, but now this is really going to boost them and give them that assurance of community.
Good ideas. We've got one more as we start to wrap up. We've got some actions.
My action is affirm. Affirm. Affirmations. There are so many different ways to do this, but make sure it's in your programming. Some of you do it so well. Some of you do it so well. So I want you to do this in multiple ways. Number one, when you're approaching your staff and you have a one-on-one with them, start with an affirmation. Always start with an affirmation, because a lot of times when you're approaching a staff person, it's because there's something that you want them to do better or think through differently. Start with an affirmation. It really does work. Start and even end with an affirmation. Sandwich the thing that they should work on in the middle. And it's okay. Even if they recognize that that's what you did, they'll still hear the affirmations. The second thing, it's not just when you're approaching them with something to say, but when you see them do something well, make sure you tell them. Make sure you tell them. I so often made the mistake of not doing that, and people assumed that I didn't like it. Go out of your way to tell people something that you appreciated. And so these are verbal affirmations, right? So verbal affirmations is one. I know that there's some of you out there, oh my gosh, there's some of you out there that are so good at personal notes. If that's your gift, do it. If it's not your gift, make it your gift. Write personal notes. Personal notes of affirmation, handwritten to your staff. And encourage them to do that to one another. Affirmations, so you can build this into staff culture. We heard this at our Campwell retreat, Jared, when we were up there with the Campwell folks. There was the affirmation, what was it? Choco Tacos, they called it, at one of the camps. That was at Sugar Creek.
That's right.
So they did virtual Choco Tacos, and it was the end of the week. And at the start of their staff meeting, they gave shout outs. It was a shout out to their staff. If some of you remember Choco Tacos, they used to be an ice cream novelty. And so they would say Choco Taco to this person for doing this week, something that I appreciated. So they would start the meeting by giving each other affirmations. The other thing that I love, and I would encourage you to do, especially those that like to write notes, or maybe you're bad at writing notes, and so you want the staff to do this to each other, get affirmation bags, boxes, cubbies, whatever. And so with a staff person's name on them, you create them during staff training, and this is the place that you put affirmations for this person. And that helps program it. And then make sure your leadership staff are doing it, and make sure you're doing that for each other. And even taking some time and saying, okay, everybody do one affirmation for somebody on staff and put it in their bag. Programming that, and so that they find these random notes at random times, can be really, really important. Make it part of your culture. And these are different ways to make it part of your culture. 1, practice it yourself verbally. 2, do notes, written notes to your staff. 3, program it so that the staff are giving verbal affirmations to one another. And 4, program it so that your staff are doing written affirmations to each other. It's such an important piece of this. Do not discount how important this can be for a staff member. A kind word can lift them up out of the depths when they're doubting themselves. Affirm, affirm, affirm. That's my action.
And they can be quick and simple. When I hadn't seen this thing before, but I immediately thought this is a great idea for camp. We were walking through like a school gym, and my daughter had done a cheerleading like camp, and they got to do one quick performance. And we're out in the cafeteria area walking around, and this little girl comes up to her and puts a paperclip on her bag. Like it's important. Like this, have you seen the paperclip thing? Like it's, and they're like, oh, you got clipped.
Yeah, clothespins. Yep.
So, clothespins. Sorry, not paper clips. Clothespins, right? So, like, maybe it's a Camp Carabiner, maybe it's a whatever. But I loved that idea, and I was like, yes, camp things down to campers, staff especially. Like, you see something and you acknowledge that. And they had some fun times of, each person came and they had decorated 5 clothespins, and they were gonna clip someone when they got it. I loved that idea for camp.
It's a great idea, and like every great idea, people will get out of hand with it. And so I remember having campfires with the clothespins because people went to Walmart and bought so many of them, and they were everywhere. It got out of hand.
What?
But
Camp staff got out of hand?
Camp staff got out of hand? Wait a minute.
Took something and went big. All right. You mentioned something about mine, and that is about the idea of one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Normalize one-on-one conversations with your staff. And I'm going to say it like this. Normalize listening-driven one-on-ones with your staff.
I like that.
Listening-driven one-on-ones with your staff. Like, I didn't say formal review. If you've got in your staff policies that you're going to do like a summer review, do that. That's fine, right? Great. We encourage that. Do a review. This isn't the same thing, though. Normalizing these and having them often can be really powerful. Normalizing individual one-on-one conversations where what you come with is questions not necessarily answers and not necessarily statements. You come with questions and you create space for them to talk and you listen. And you've got a handful of questions in your pocket that and you know these things that are going to help them open up to what they need to talk about, what they want to talk through, ideas that they have, things that they would like to share. These are ways that you systematize relationship building. Yes, that's going to happen organically, but we are at camp systematizing, creating space for relationships to build. And that matters with you. I said this would come back, this like peer-to-peer, but you as a either supervisor, but really like a supporter, right? That's how we actually think of things, upside down, and that you are a supporter for them. Your leaders are not top down. We are supportive bottom up. And so normalizing listening-driven one-on-one conversations are a way to create that space.
I love that you said, to systematize it, and kind of formalize the informality of it. Because every time you have one of these brief it could be 30 seconds, it could be 60 seconds, right? But tracking that you've done that with each of your staff. So when was the last time that you did a one-on-one check-in with each of your staff? Do you have a spreadsheet or a database or something that tracks that? That's really important because you might say, oh my gosh, there's this staff person that I haven't really had a conversation with since I did their interview. And I'm going to make sure that I seek them out during breakfast just to check in and to remind them that I care about them. Because that's all these doubts are happening in these people's minds, right? They're feeling lonely, they're feeling isolated, they're feeling anxious. We know that all of these mental health concerns are there. We've gone through the mental health statistics multiple times when we're talking about these summer staff, these young adults, these emerging adults. They're going through so much. Make sure that they have those support systems in place. You are a key part of this. And you can help put those other support systems in place for them so that they can thrive this summer at your camp.
There are some persons, some places, some things, some ideas, and some actions for you for this summer. Pick some. Pick some, pick all, pick. You likely do some of these, or like we said, maybe it's an adjustment in some way, but pick some of these to set up this system and this culture of staff support. It is clear that it makes a big difference for their impact, for their outcomes. And then, to bring it back to your mission, we know, the numbers tell us, the stories that tell us that when your staff thrive, your camp thrives. When your staff thrive, your campers thrive. Right? When your staff thrives, you thrive, leader. So this is worth intention and time and investment. If you've got other ideas, maybe I said it earlier, but if you've got other ideas, drop them in there. Right? Add a comment on a social post or wherever else you're seeing this. Drop it to us and we'll share it because the point was to equip a whole bunch of these ideas for you and your leaders. Grateful for you. Coming soon. We've got a few episodes left in this season before you start really running hard as summer things begin. So we've got some fun things coming up, and we're grateful for all you do and the work that we get to connect and do with you.
Blessings in the name of the risen Christ.
Happy Easter. Amen. Thanks for listening to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast. Jared back with you quick to make sure that you have all that you need to know to equip your summer staff with this tool that's been called the most helpful resource for developing summer staff. Holy Ground is a guidebook and devotional written specifically for summer camp staff in 2026. This has been written by camp staff and camp enthusiasts from across regions and denominations and perspectives and roles, specifically to help equip and connect summer staff as they go through the summer ahead. There are 3 sections. The front section has some foundations of camping ministry. The back section has some additional resources that will help both during the summer and after the summer. And the heart of it is a 12-week devotional that takes you through a couple of weeks of staff training, a couple of weeks post-camp, and then 8 weeks of midsummer. You can learn more about all of this and get your copies ready to get into the hands of your summer camp staff right now at sacredplaygrounds.com/holyground. Thanks for listening to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to catch every new episode. If this is helpful for you and your organization and your team, follow the link in the show notes to become a supporter of the podcast. Our theme music was written and performed by Weekend Picnic. Find their original songs anywhere you get your music or visit them at weekendpicnicband.com. Sacred Playgrounds is generating insights equipping leaders and connecting partners to help camping ministries thrive. Learn more about what we've got going on, view current research projects, and connect with our team at sacredplaygrounds.com.